What if your exhaustion isn't physical? What if it's energetic? What if the fog, the heaviness, the disconnect has nothing to do with how much you've done and everything to do with what you've absorbed? You wake up tired. You cancel plans. You rest. But the weight doesn't lift because it was never just about sleep. This is what happens when your energy field is wide open and no one ever taught you how to close it. You've been carrying signals, stories, emotions, most of them not even yours. And your nervous system is telling you not to hustle harder, but to clear space. In this video, you'll remember how to feel the edge of your own energy, how to stop absorbing what isn't yours, how to protect your field without shutting down your heart. Before the end, I'll give you 4 practices you can start using today to reset, release, and reclaim your signal in minutes. But first, we begin where it all gets misunderstood, not with tiredness, but with the lie that caused it. You rest, you sleep, you unplug, but the heaviness stays. You move slower, think slower, feel further away from yourself, as if your body is present but your energy is somewhere else. You tell yourself you're just tired, but tired doesn't linger like this. Tired doesn't follow you into every room. Tired doesn't make your chest feel full of static. What you're feeling isn't exhaustion. It's energetic congestion. Too much input. Too little clarity. You've been absorbing noise, emotional, environmental, digital. You've been taking on moods, guilt, tension. Not because you're careless, but because you're open. And when you're open without guidance, you collect things. Signals. Pressure. Pain. That's not yours. You carry it silently until your body becomes the only one speaking. And it says, I'm full. No one taught you how to filter. You were told to push through, regulate your mindset, fix your habits. But the truth is, your system isn't malfunctioning. It's overloaded with emotion, energy, and expectations you were never meant to process. This is why the usual fixes fall flat. Because you're trying to solve a boundary issue with rest. And rest can't release what's not even yours. This isn't a flaw in you. It's a gap in what you were taught. You were trained to manage your time, but never your field. You learned to control your output, but not your input. And now, your body is trying to recover from signals it was never built to carry. The good news is this: you can learn. You can recalibrate. You can clear what's stuck and rebuild your energetic edges. And in the next chapter, you'll understand exactly what your energy field is, why it keeps absorbing more than it should, and what is actually happening in those moments when you walk into a room and your body flinches before anyone speaks. Most people never realize they have a second skin. It's invisible, but it's real, your energy field. And it's responding to everything around you all the time. You're not just walking into rooms, you're sensing with them. You're not just hearing someone's tone. You're feeling it in your chest. That isn't oversensitivity, it's resonance. Energy is movement. It travels through sound, emotion, and tension. And like a tuning fork, your system adjusts to what surrounds it. Especially if no filter has been built. Someone anxious near you? Your chest tightens. Someone in rage? Your field braces. Even scrolling through emotional content affects your state, because energy doesn't require proximity to enter your space. It only requires access. When you're wide open, unconsciously, you become a sponge. You don't just feel others. You start carrying them. And at first, it doesn't seem like much. A little irritability here. A vague pressure there. But over time, it builds into exhaustion, confusion, disconnection. Because your field was never meant to hold everything. This is where many sensitives begin to break down. They assume they're just introverted, weak, or too emotional. But in truth, they've been running an unfiltered channel in a world full of static. Once you understand this, you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "Where's the leak?" Later, I'll show you how to build an energetic filter, one that lets you stay open without being invaded. But for that to work, we need to go deeper first. Because before you can clean your field, you have to understand why it opened in the first place. And that path always leads back to the version of you that learned it was safer to carry everything than to risk being separate. You didn't decide to become a container for other people's pain. But at some point, your system learned it was safer to feel everything than to risk feeling nothing at all. This isn't about weakness. It's about survival. Maybe you grew up in a space where emotions ran high, or worse, where they were never spoken. So you started scanning the emotional weather, watching faces, reading tone, picking up tension before it exploded. Not because you were taught to do it, but because your nervous system adapted faster than your mind could explain. You learned, if I can feel what others feel, maybe I can stop the damage. Maybe I can fix the mood. Maybe I can be safe. So you tuned in. You anticipated needs before they were expressed. You took on emotions before they were named. And that became your default setting. Emotional responsibility in exchange for connection. You grew up, and the pattern followed. Now, you're the one people confide in, the one who holds space, the one who absorbs the weight, even when you're the one drowning. And when it finally becomes too much, you pull away, not because you don't care, but because you no longer know where you begin. This isn't empathy anymore. It's enmeshment. It's love tangled with self-erasure. You start confusing care with carrying, presence with merging, compassion with exhaustion. But you don't have to live like that. True connection doesn't ask you to bleed just to stay close. It doesn't require you to feel everything for everyone. It asks one thing: clarity. Clarity that says, this feeling isn't mine. This responsibility isn't mine. This energy can pass through, but it doesn't get to stay. You're not abandoning people by returning to yourself. You're becoming someone they can actually trust. Not because you break for them, but because you remain steady in your own signal. In the next chapter, we'll look at what happens when this over-absorption becomes your normal. How it doesn't just affect your emotions, but your clarity, your energy, and the decisions you make when your field stays overloaded for too long. Energetic openness is often praised, but no one talks about what happens when it's constant and unprotected. At first, it feels like being compassionate, present, attuned. You notice the unspoken things. You feel what others can't name. But without boundaries, that openness becomes a leak. And over time, the cost is not dramatic. It's slow, subtle enough that you don't notice until you're already empty. You lose focus. You forget what you were saying mid-sentence. You feel foggy in places that used to feel clear. Not because you don't care, but because you don't know how to stay open without being overwhelmed. You tell yourself you're just tired, just introverted, just burnout. You stop trusting your gut because your gut is now cluttered with everyone else's noise. This isn't just emotional. It's physiological. Your nervous system never gets to downshift. Your energy field is constantly adjusting, interpreting, absorbing, until your baseline becomes imbalanced. You might start to shrink, not from fear, but from energetic fatigue. You say less, show up less. This is the hidden cost of unfiltered empathy. You begin to confuse depletion with identity. But beneath all of that is one simple truth. You've been too open for too long, without protection, without pause, without conscious return. You can't keep carrying energy that isn't yours and expect your body, your mind, your spirit to stay clear. And yet, the answer isn't to close. It's to filter, to become discerning, to stop equating love with overexposure. True sensitivity doesn't mean you feel everything. It means you feel accurately, with boundaries, with space, with choice. Later, I'll show you the exact practices to reset your field, how to ground, how to breathe, how to filter emotional signals before they stick. Because the real danger of overabsorption isn't just exhaustion, it's confusion. It's the slow erosion of your ability to make decisions that are actually yours. But first, we need to understand how this pattern ends. And that's what we'll explore next. How to build real protection. Not by becoming hard, but by becoming sovereign. When most people hear boundaries, they picture resistance. A wall, a shutdown, a rejection. But real energetic boundaries aren't built to push others away. They're built to keep you intact. A true boundary says, I can be present without being pulled apart. I can care without carrying. I can feel deeply without losing my center. Your energy is not a resource for the world to spend. It's your compass. And if you don't protect it, you drift. Protection doesn't require anger. It requires clarity. Knowing what enters your space, what stays, and what goes. But this clarity isn't just a mindset. It's something you cultivate gently, daily, like breath or rhythm. Here are 4 simple practices that will begin to reshape your field from the inside out. Breath awareness. When you feel scattered or overwhelmed, don't look for a fix. Return to your breath. Inhale slowly. Exhale with intention. With each breath, feel yourself letting go of what isn't yours. With each inhale, draw your own signal back in. This isn't just calming, it's boundary repair. Grounding. Your body is an anchor. Use it. Stand barefoot. Touch the earth. Place your hand on your heart. Bring awareness to your feet, your legs, your spine. The more you inhabit your body, the less energy you'll absorb unconsciously. Grounding returns you to the part of you that doesn't need permission to take up space. Intentional entry. Before entering any space, physical or digital, pause. Set a silent intention. I remain connected to my own energy. Or, nothing enters my field without consent. You don't need to announce it. Your field will listen. And the space around you will begin to respond. Energetic hygiene. Energy leaves residue. Just like you shower your body, cleanse your field. At the end of the day, take 2 minutes. Visualize a soft light moving through you, clearing tension, emotion, static, stretch, shake, release. You're not doing this because the world is dangerous. You're doing it because your energy is sacred. These aren't tricks. They're acts of remembrance. Because boundaries aren't barriers. They're the framework that allows you to stay open without disappearing. The more you practice, the less you'll explain yourself. You won't need to. People will feel the difference. And more importantly, you will too. Next, we complete the arc. You've cleared space, reclaimed your edges. Now it's time to return fully to the signal of who you were before the world got too loud. As the static clears, something begins to rise. Not new, not foreign, just familiar. It's you, the real you, beneath the tension, beneath the weight, beneath the roles you took on to survive. Your frequency. At first, it feels quiet, a subtle calm, a breath that doesn't rush, a stillness that doesn't collapse into numbness. This is your natural state. Not perfect, not polished, but true, coherent, clear. When you stop absorbing, you start feeling clearly again. Your intuition sharpens. Your body softens. Your emotions move without confusion or overreaction. You make decisions from center, not reaction. You set boundaries without guilt. You walk into spaces without shrinking or scanning. Not because you've hardened, but because you're finally anchored. From here, your relationships change. Not because others do, but because your frequency no longer contorts to match theirs. You stop needing to be understood by those who only knew your unprotected self. You start aligning with people who respond to your clarity, not your pain. This isn't the end of sensitivity. It's the beginning of sovereign sensitivity, where you can feel deeply and stay whole. You don't have to become cold to protect your energy. You don't have to hide to stay grounded. You just need to stay home, inside yourself. The world will still pull. Others may still project, request, offload. But now, you recognize the edge. And when you feel the pull, you pause. You ground. You choose. You no longer confuse overexposure with love. You no longer carry the cost of silence. You no longer mistake exhaustion for who you are. You were never tired. You were just elsewhere. And now, you're back. You're not tired. You're just no longer willing to carry what was never yours. And that is not weakness. It's awakening. You've remembered how to listen to your energy, how to feel the edges of your own field, how to return to the quiet strength that was always there beneath the noise. From here, you don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't need to explain your clarity. You simply stand in it, because now you know what your energy feels like when it's clean. If this message reached something in you, if you've been walking through life with a weight you couldn't name, leave a comment below. Write, "I'm returning to my frequency." Let it mark your turning point. Let it be real. Because you're not here to carry it all. You're here to remember who you are without the static. And you just did.